Good morning, beekeepers. Welcome to our series on women creating new foundations. And today we have with us Allyson and Stacy Wilson, the creators of Two Teachers Trying. So before we get started, if you could just let me know how you would like me to address you, how you identify, that would be most welcome.
Yeah,
Allyson,
sure. Yeah. I'm Allyson, she, her.
I'm Stacy, she, her.
Okay. And just if we can get some background about teaching, if each of you, perhaps we'll start with Allyson, we'll go in alphabetical order. Just some background about, time in the classroom and teaching and perhaps your why in your heart you really wanted to get this started to support our collective.
Yeah. So I've been teaching for 17 years. I taught 10 years in the Bronx and 7 years here in the Lancaster School District in Pennsylvania. And my calling to become a teacher, I think, was kind of always there as a kid. Like I always found myself teaching somebody what to do or how to do something. And later on in life, I realized that's what I want to get up and do every morning. I feel like that's where I could start to, I know it's kind of cliche, but like to really make the world a better place. Like that was the driving force. And fast forward now, 17 years later, I have the pleasure to work with Stacy Wilson, and her and I connect a lot, on our views and our passions and sort of how we view things. And we started to talk and we got together and we created Two Teachers Trying, which is still developing its focus. Wouldn't you say, Wills? Like,
Yeah, it's a love project in motion.
yeah, we're still seeing what spaghetti is on the wall kind of thing. So that's from me.
So I began teaching in 1996. I taught 3 years in Alabama, where I'm from, and then I got married and moved to Pennsylvania. Our goal was to be in PA for 3 years, and we've been here for 25 years. So I was really, really fortunate to get a job when I first moved here. It was really hard to get a job. I worked at a private school for 1 year and then became the EDK teacher in Manham Township. And that was a extended day kindergarten program for children who needed a full day of kindergarten. I taught that for 5 years, and I taught second grade for 1 year in PA. And then I became a mother, and I took off for 14 years. And during that time, along with being a mother, I was also a chronic volunteer, as I like to say. I volunteer for lots of different nonprofits. And so I had a new set of tools in my tool belt, I guess you could say, when I re-entered the teaching force again in 2017. So I've known Allyson for 4 years. It's a great pleasure. We have a great energy connection. And when I was off for those 14 years, I also started receiving Reiki, and I became a Reiki master level 2. So with that, feeling energy, and I've always been an energy feeler. I've always felt energy in people, and I feel energy in my classroom. I think one of the things that we talk about as teachers is bringing balance in the classroom and helping kids to regulate in a dysregulated world. And I feel like that's one of the components of Two Teachers Trying, is to help bring regulation, not only to students, but also to adults who deal with students, parents, grandparents, neighbors. So we're all in this together. It takes a village. And our goal is just to bring published materials as well as digital material to people to help them.
Really appreciate your mentioning of regulation. That is actually one of the things with all of our coursework in the beekeepers that we talk about, is we don't want to underestimate the power of a regulated nervous system. And I appreciate the heavy stress, especially with COVID and the schools and coming and going. There's so much, the world moves so quickly for these children who've been on the planet all of, 5, maybe 10 years. And I'm curious if you would both share your perspective on what happens in the classroom when the energy is moving too quickly and there's one regulated nervous system, usually the teacher, and what sort of happens in the field that you're sharing when the energy starts moving rapidly in a learning environment.
What happens? It's like herding cats in a rainstorm. It is, so there's a lot of, frenetic is the other word that comes to my mind, is frenetic. And it's almost like there's this ping pong vibration that just happens all over the room. And when that becomes activated, it can be hard to bring that back together. I have a couple tricks in my toolbox that I use. And, as a teacher, there's really no sense moving forward when that's happening in the classroom. There's no space for learning. The brain is not in a place for learning when that's happening to, a large sort of, the majority of the classroom. And so, being able to feel where your classroom is energetically, and knowing that, or like where we are and how to get there, I think is something that teachers are getting better at doing. And I think that, Wilson and I, we teach, our school is, in a city school in a lower socioeconomic area. And so students come already sort of dysregulated and bringing that into the classroom. And so sort of figuring out how to shift that for students when they come into the classroom to get into a place of balance so that we can start to move is, it's always, for me, it's a work in progress. And to me, there's never like one way. You kind of have to figure out how the room is and who your students are in the classroom and figure out what works for them. But it does take, energy from the teacher to be able to notice that and bring that back. Yeah.
So I teach K1 ESL, and what I feel in the classroom, I feel that the children, when I'm speaking too quickly, or my expectations for writing are too great, they just shut down, and they sometimes put their head down and just cry. So that's when we stop and we do what's called elevator breathing. And we breathe in, we breathe out, and then we try again. And it's called task analysis, where I break down the task even more. So maybe instead of writing a full sentence, it's just maybe 2 words of that sentence. And so that's what's so hard about when I think teaching ELs, is that they're not only having to apply language, but they're also learning language at the same time. They're having to apply it. So they're building the plane while they're flying it. And so I just think it's real important for all of us to recognize with English language learners that they need space and time, and that's where our system of education doesn't really allow that, and that's really hard.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I want to piggyback on that, and that's the like, I know myself as a teacher, there are days when, like, so many emails have come to you about your scores or what's not happening or this, that, or something else. And that can really put the pressure on a teacher to want to just drive forward no matter what. If you're hanging on to the rails of the train because it's left the station, keep going. There might be students who are still running after the train, trying to catch up. Keep going.
Right.
And that's not what I signed up to do. That's kind of why I left the business world, right? The business world is all about keep going, soldier on, soldier on. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And Wilson pointed it out greatly. Like, I mean, that's what happens. They'll either shut down or they become even more dysregulated. And if you're not careful and, you become dysregulated as a teacher and you sort of, allowed that pressure to get to you that day, you might start to soldier on too. I found myself doing that. And then, caught myself later and was like, oh, okay. No. We're going to slow it way down. We're going to slow it way down. What's the rush? So, yeah, there's, I think teachers battle that every day. Wouldn't you say, Wills?
Oh yeah, every day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's interesting as both of you are talking, I feel this like there's moisture in my eyes, like I am having a visceral reaction to this. It's really painful and it is so much to manage, and I can feel in my heart, this contraction, the weight of what you're carrying, and these little beings coming to learn, and it feels to me like you're sort of swimming in a stormy ocean and there's this 20-foot wave coming towards you, and that's the sensation I'm having inside. And I'm just curious if I'm receiving sort of the feelings that you're communicating through this extreme dysregulation that's happening.
100% spot on.
I think too, Key, it's a wave after wave after wave. So it's not just one tsunami, it's constant tsunami. So you finish one unit, you're on to the next unit. And you're not even sure they grasp maybe all they needed to grasp in the previous unit, but you have to go on.
It's about covering the material, covering it, getting through it. So that's the message, at least that I feel, right? Wills, as a teacher,
I feel that too.
And I understand that, again, with the balance, right? We do have to, the way the public school system is set up, you need to cover from A to Z through the school year. And that's kind of it, and we'll talk about meeting students where they are and things like that. However, the two of them, you can't have just one. You can't have them both happening at the same time. If we're going to meet students where they are, then that might mean we have to slow down. And the thing, in slowing down, slow can be fast. Let's slow down. Let's build their foundation. And these are human beings that we're working with. This isn't like a machine that we're slapping together. This isn't a production line trying to get so many cars out by the end of the year. These are human beings. And, sometimes they'll be, depending on, where they are, sometimes we're on task to be where the curriculum says we should be. And then sometimes we're not, because sometimes, as a teacher, I might discover a gap in their learning, or I might discover something that we need to cover first before we move on to the next thing. And whatever it is that we need to, sort of backtrack on, I want to do it thoroughly, and I want it to be meaningful to the students and not just like a quick drive-by, so that we can get back onto where the curriculum is, right? And so it's like super frustrating. And we have a lot of input from people who have either never been in the classroom or spent little time in the classroom, who like to give advice on where we should be and why, because the curriculum says so, so yeah. Wills, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Everything you're saying is spot on.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah. And I know that we're not the only ones who feel like this. I know there's like tons of teachers out there. Teachers did not get into this work to get through the curriculum.
That's right.
I would say that most teachers got into this work because, they too like wanted to make a difference, and, I always thought like, what would happen if these messages of, positivity reached kids at a younger age? What if the seed was planted then? Could that allow them to make, better choices, to go out and, do what they want to do, create balance in their life. If that seed was planted earlier, what could happen? And so I think most
too,
did
Allyson,
that.
like our name of our idea, Two Teachers Trying, we were sharing Vietnamese food key, and we were thinking like, how can we have this idea, what can we name it? And we really were just two teachers trying to do better in a box given to us. I mean, it's like a box. Sometimes you feel like you can't go out of the box. They always say, think outside the box, but you can't, because you're so confined to the expectations of the curriculum. So just like parents are trying, we're also trying. And that's part of our name, Two Teachers Trying.
Yeah, I sometimes refer to it as T cubed.
I like that.
T3. So I wonder, Allyson, I just want to unpack something if you're willing. When you talked about slowing down to speed up, just from my own mindfulness perspective, I find slowing down and being able to discern that I'm a differentiated being, although connected to a collective, knowing where my boundaries are, where I end and another being starts, I can sort of disentangle from the chaotic, for lack of a better way of saying it. There's this spacious sort of nonlinear quality, and then this massive change seems to happen over a period of time, but it's been all these small little blocks that sort of all come together all of a sudden, and I'll say, oh, I don't know, I got here. And yet looking back, I'm sort of resonating with when you said slowing way down, because it takes time to regulate, to process, and we all do it individually because our brains are all different, right? So we all have our own ways. And I'm just curious if I'm understanding what you're saying, there's the space and time to process what's coming at you, take a breath, and then move forward more rapidly. Is that did I understand you correctly?
Yeah. And, I think that is a component of, like holistically looking at the classroom and the students. So slowing way down, I also think about like for academics, right? Like, so I have a classroom who's struggling with multiplication. So let's slow way down. Let's slow down and let's go back, and where are we with that? And what do we need to do? And let's sit in that once we figure out kind of where we are, and let's sit in that for a while, and let's create opportunities for students to enter the learning where they're engaged. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be a slowing down of it's not just turning the page. Here's what we're teaching tomorrow. Okay, this curriculum says we teach this today. Okay, here we go. We got to get through because the test is supposed to be at the end of the month. See, I even start talking faster when I mention that, right? The brain cannot do that. That you can't learn like that. I can't. And I know even if I'm sitting in a presentation or a PD and there's somebody blitzing through at 90 miles an hour, I am good for about 1 minute. And then I'm like, meh, I'm going to plan my dinner, thinking about what I'm doing after work, because I can't keep up with that pace. And our students can't do that. And so, yeah, slowing way down in everything, right? Like in academics, in learning about ourselves and learning to regulate, you need that space and that time and that slowing down to do that, because it's not one of those things like, all right, we got 1 minute to regulate. Ready? Go. Here we go. We're good to go. No, it doesn't work like that. We need to take time. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Kate? Because sometimes I go way off on a tangent.
It does answer my question. And I'm curious if I would like to share your Facebook page and just clarify, is your Facebook page open to other teachers or parents who are also sort of managing this tsunami after tsunami of dysregulation within the learning environment? Is this a place that you would welcome posts or questions? Can they message you? I'm going to look in my share screen and post it, but if you could just fill us in about, two teachers trying, what's happening on this Facebook page while I share this screen, that would be wonderful.
Wilson, that's kind of your jam right now.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the point.
Here we are, two teachers trying. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the top. This is what it looks like.
So two teachers trying, we chose a mountain theme, Key, because we're all climbing a mountain of some sort, right? It's whether it's a professional mountain or a educational mountain or a spiritual mountain or a energy mountain. We're all climbing a mountain. And maybe we're climbing mountains multiple times. Maybe it's different mountains every day. I don't know. Different parts of your day, different mountain. But yes, this web page and our Facebook page is open to anyone around the world. All countries are invited to attend, and they can message us in Messenger. And we will be posting, they're called low content books. We're publishing these on Amazon. And they can be purchased.
I saw this, sorry to interrupt you. Is this the Grief Speaks? I saw this content book. Is this what you're referring to? This one? Could I order this on your website or on Amazon?
Well, you can, there's a link attached to the bottom of the book there through Amazon. Yes. You can click on that picture of Grief Speaks, and it should take you to Amazon. That's the messenger. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just click on the purple book there. Yeah, right there. It should go to Amazon.
Oh, I wonder if I can't do it because I'm sharing the screen. Okay,
oh,
so
maybe.
Click on that, it would go to Amazon. Yes. Well, so technically impaired I am, and everyone who knows me knows that. So I'm not. But I will look for it so I can.
If you scroll up a little bit more, Key, go up toward the top of the page. On the left-hand side there, you'll see there's our web page, Two Teachers Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
We will also post our books there that we're selling. And our first book that we have is Grief Speaks. And we chose Grief Speaks because I think all of us can relate to grief in one way or another, whether it's the loss of a person or a pet or a relationship or an opportunity. Grief is many forms, and grief is not just for a time period. It lives inside of us forever when we lose that a person or a pet or. So Allyson and I had a great idea of let's talk about grief, but not give specific prompts. Leave it open-ended. So if you want to share, stop sharing the screen for a second and let Allyson show you the book that we published.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to share the Facebook page so that our viewers the collective can recognize it if they go there, and then if they want to contact you. And I appreciate your naming the website because I'm not sure if I scrolled too fast. But yes,
that's okay.
I would love to see your content book.
Okay, Allyson has that.
Yes, I have it here. So I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So inside is just a little message here, and I'm going to read it real quick because it kind of sums it up. It says, This journal is for your personal expression. One page is blank, one page has lines. Express your grief with simple prompts. Grief speaks. And when Wilson, and since we're teachers, we call each other by the last name all the time. So it's Stacy, but it's really hard for me to call her Stacy. So I'm probably going to call her Wilson, and she's probably going to call me Plaster. So we one side, I don't know if you can see this, is just starts with the word today, ... And some people might need at some point, just that little kickoff might be what they need. Maybe they don't need a kickoff. Maybe they don't need that. And there's a place for writing, and then there's a place for drawing. We were trying to think of the different ways that people that works for them in expressing their grief. Maybe some people are word people, maybe some people are drawers, picture people. We really just wanted to create a space for them. So, but here's another prompt that says right now. Yeah, and I think maybe one more.
There's just 3 prompts. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and in this moment. Yeah. And anyway, we're super proud of our first publication. And yeah, and we also talked about, while Two Teachers Trying is, it's listed as educational website, and there will be low content material on there that is, quote unquote educational. But we also thought of teachers as like whole people, right? They're whole people. They're not just teachers. They're like a whole person. And we want to include content, books, low content books that, allow teachers access for that give them an opportunity to, real, like, what's the word I'm looking for? But I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought because my mind goes off in a million tangents. But just provide opportunity than just like educational material. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does. And Stacy or Wilson, I would love you to share more about this mountain image and climbing a mountain. We talk a lot about in our Beekeeper Collective, we talk about the hive a lot and how we come together. We go out and we pollinate and we work, and the worker bees are female, so then they come back and they bring all the pollen, and you make this honey all together. And when you fly out to pollinate whatever choices you want to empower in yourself, you have the support of this collective hive, and there's this safety in it. And I'm so I just resonate so much with this climbing a mountain. It feels like we are all climbing this mountain together, and you creating this platform for other teachers and parents to be able to find support is such a huge, like, carabiner clip, giving people the opportunity to grab onto something that they can find resonance with and have this cohesive support. Because it sounds like, I just would love you to talk more about your mountain, because I felt so much expansion when you brought it into awareness.
Sure. So if you want to share the picture again of the mountain, I'll tell you more about that. So I had a wonderful, amazing, loving cousin. His name was Tom, and Tom walked the Appalachian Trail, and he also walked part of the Pacific Coast Trail. And the guy in the picture actually reminds me of Tom. That's why I picked that picture, because he loved to hike. Tom developed a really rare brain cancer when he was 33, and he passed away last year. And we were very close at the end of his life. And he shared with me, stories about walking and people he met along the way that helped him become a better hiker, and how people shared and loved each other along the trail, and they shared food and they shared tools, and that resonated with me and has never left me. And I think about Allyson and I, like sharing our tools and our food for thought, maybe, with people to help them grow as they climb their own individual mountains. And the other piece I wanted to share is that when grief has been a big part of my life. Since 2011, I've lost several friends to breast cancer. And one of my friends, Kelly, who also passed away last year, she and I would often talk about, she knew she was going to pass soon. And she said, Stace, we're all just walking each other home. And I said, oh my gosh, I love that, because that's what we are doing. And so whatever the destination is, whether it's the next job or the next class you're going to teach, or maybe whatever your goal is, wherever your mountain is you need to climb, like, we're just here to help each other, right? We're just here to offer our talents. And I think if we can do that in a very kind way, then that's going to help all of us.
I appreciate that so much, the sentiment behind this mountain. And I love that expression, we are all just walking each other home. It's so much easier when we hold hands, right?
Yeah.
So I have just one more question, and then I'll let you share some final thoughts. So you've provided your website, your contact information. I'm really curious if you would be willing to share just one of your special techniques. I know Miss Allyson has a lot of techniques she uses in her classroom, but just something that we could share, an exercise or one of your secret ways of calming a dysregulated, frenetic pinball machine, I think you mentioned. I do meditate quite a bit with children and do meditations, and sometimes getting them just to stay still for 5 minutes, as I'm sure you know, is a major undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
Getting everyone to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious if you would just be willing to share that in case any parents are listening and we could share that.
Yeah. So I'm going to just sort of do a little flashback in my mind of my classes over the years, and definitely meditation is one thing. There's a good amount of times we do a meditation when we come back from recess, because that can be, it's hard to let go of the recess body and the recess brain. So meditation can help. For some students, will breathing, like just taking that deep breath and activating the vagus nerve, right? Like getting that going, that can help. And sometimes when when we're in the meeting area, again, the breath, like I'll notice that there's a lot of wiggly happening. And so we'll just all together take a deep breath, and I can watch the bodies change just even after one breath. Another little trick too that I learned, I forget where it was from, is sort of that rhythmic regulation, right? So you can actually access, there's a online, what is it called? A metronome, the thing that they use on the piano. So I've used that with kids too, right? To cross the midline and regulate. And at first I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know, but I'm going to try it. And I couldn't believe the effect that it would have on some students. And I would just sort of say, like, listen, I need you to just watch this for me for a little bit. I want to see if it, because some students were resistant to do it. If I said, listen, I think this will help you regulate. No, it won't. Okay. So I got to try a different angle. And I said, listen, I'm kind of thinking about how this might help other people. And I want you to just check it out for me and see if it, and then, because now that's giving them a choice, right? Now they feel like they're helping. Anyway, this back and forth metronome within a minute or two really regulated some students. So that's a couple tips and tricks that I have.
Thank you. So the breath And then it looks like a rhythmic regulation. And what about you, Stacy?
Same, similar things. But along with the breathing, I also bring in essential oils in a diffuser. And I find that peppermint makes them alert and lavender helps bring them down. So you'll often be in my room and you'll smell different scents because of the different response I need,
Or the
yeah,
hallway, Wilson. I can smell it when I come down the hallway.
or the hallway, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate your being with us, and I hope that you will return and share with us in a couple of months how your new foundation is coming to its next level. Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would just say, please check out our Facebook page at Two Teachers Trying, and then also our website at twoteacherstrying.com. And if you want to email us, you're welcome to do that. It's twoteacherstrying@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, and stay tuned to see, as we move forward and evolve, into what Two Teachers Trying will look like and sound like and be like, in a year from now. And it's kind of funny because that's sort of how we teach, right? Like we have a general sense, a general game plan, and then as all good teachers do, you have to bob, stick, and weave as what shows up. And so
Right.
while we're moving forward, we're also still allowing information and direction to come to us as we move forward. So we'll be evolving, and who knows what it'll look like and sound like in a year from now.
That's right.
Good
We're
wisdom
excited.
for life, right? It keeps changing. You have a direction and it keeps changing as we play through.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you both for being with me today, giving up this time and these precious moments we have shared together. Thank you so very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kate.
Key.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.